Chapter 225. Apologize. After my aggressive dialogue in the courtroom, I was taken to a holding cell by the U.S. Marshals, who told me that I just fucked up. Big time. They were being sarcastic, so I had to be bigger. I sarcastically laughed at them and said, "Fuck that nigga." One of my lawyers came by, incensed by what she had just witnessed. The legal profession deals with a lot of respect amongst colleagues. Prosecutors, judges, and lawyers were all good friends that most times went to school together and had relationships amongst each other. Cops, marshals, and detectives were also their friends and family, so respect was high on their lists. They held each other in high esteem, so when one was disrespected by another one's client, it reflected on that one also. My lawyer was embarrassed. After I was removed from the courtroom, she actually told the judge that she was sorry and that I was just frustrated, but I would apologize, and that she would talk to me and we would return to take the plea. She then came into the holding cell to ask me to apologize to the judge. Shit, I refused. I told her that he should be apologizing to me. I would never apologize for my actions. Whatever I do, I did. And whatever I did, I done. That's that. I'm a man, and I demanded to be treated as one. Tell him to come back here and demand an apology himself. He's a man, right? Why he send you? She shook her head. She rubbed on her temples as her cheeks turned pink. She knew I wasn't the type to bow down, kiss ass, smile, buck dance. Nah, I was from the 100. First in Kennedy, the land of Benny Lee's law. I respect men, not titles. To you, the black robe means everything, but to us, that black robe is trifling, means nothing, doesn't represent justice to black folks. Take that black robe and flush it. Fuck it. She said that I just made him so mad that if I'm guilty and he sentences me, he will certainly turn up the dial. Shit, I expected that anyway. For me, it's survival. I see him as a rival. I told her, fuck him, it's final. Let's prepare for trial. She begged me to take the plea to the point that I threatened to fire her. She then calmed down. She didn't want me to go to trial because I was caught red-handed and any chance of being found not guilty was 0 to none. I was a little more optimistic. I saw 60-40 guilty. Maybe with the right questioning we could swing the 60 in my favor. After being stubborn, as she calls me, we prepared for trial. Despite our disconnection because of her ludicrous objections and lectures and my furious rejections of her predilections. Even with my numerous reflections and circumspections, I was going to die fighting. This was my future or funeral, so trial was my selection. She wasn't too exuberant, but who cares? Not me. This court had them other niggas too scared. Not me. Taking a cop to 10 and get 30? Not me. They might throw themselves to the mercy of the courts, but they, not me. Chapter 226. Chasing Freedom. After she left, I began to pace the 12-foot cage. I questioned my own sanity repeatedly. I asked myself questions and gave myself answers. Why was I back in this cancer throwing tantrums? Like 90% of the jail and prison population, I was trying to get my bank up without going bankrupt. But why was I breaking the law to get rich? Because it gave us a sense of freedom. Freedom to call your own shots, to be your own boss, to be able to relax and to set your own norms, to take vacations without permission and without the government taking a nice percentage of our commissions through taxes. The irony of that freedom to set our own hours was that we were losing our own freedom, trying to be free. Then we gave somebody else the power to set our own hours on how long we would stay out of our cells. This is what we now called free. Even though it was a dangerous prescription that could cost us our existence, we felt like the risk was worth the rewards, and the downfalls was part of the process, part of the conquest, the constant contest, but it only caused stress in a heart that was heartless. But the downfalls was robbing us of our living. We were spending more time in prison than outside of them. We were losing precious quality time with our loved ones. We were sacrificing something that was irreplaceable, time. And the sacrifice wasn't for revolutionary purposes, which would have been worth it. But the sacrifice was for the illusion of freedom and happiness, only being accomplished through money. I lost many years in captivity chasing this freedom, and I knew plenty of people that lost more years than me. Some were never coming home, and plenty more lost their lives, all chasing money and the illusion of freedom. The illusion was a lie. But why am I continuing down this path? If I'm not getting rich from it, then the whole question is, why am I doing it? Was it just pure rebelliousness or just pure insanity? Was it that I didn't know how to do anything else? Or was it that I feared doing anything else? I knew how to maneuver around backstabbers, drug abusers, and hitmen, yet I feared the unknown in a civilian life filled with squares. Whenever my illusions became attainable, it vaporized quicker. Insanity. My enemy was winning. My mind was slipping off the balcony. I was living in a fog, a fantasy, a delusion of self-deception, an analogy, a fool's paradise, a fallacy. My life felt like a spectacle that was an inspiration to fools. In actuality, casualty. I was still breathing though, thankfully, but my life was a tragedy, a cavity. I lost a few major pieces on this chessboard of life. I had to refocus and come up with a better strategy. Chapter 227, Spectacle. Four months later, it was time. Jury selection. I had to help my lawyer pick 12 people that would judge my fate. A bunch of people were sitting in the courtroom and the prosecutor and my lawyer were choosing and striking. As I looked at the potential jurors, I saw no friendly faces, just hostile looks and mean stares from all different races. One white lady was looking at me as if I killed John F. Kennedy. Crazy bitch looked like her mind was already made up. Strike her. She's an enemy. After 2 days, 14 people were picked, 12 jurors and 2 alternates. An Asian woman was the jury forewoman. She would lead the 12. She would present questions to the prosecution while deliberating. I didn't like her. I didn't like her looks. She stared at me intensely every day as if I did something to her. Never seen this bitch a day in my life. For me, it was just another day in the life. The trial became a farce and a spectacle. I was assigned a new judge after the coward removed himself, saying he didn't want anything to do with my case. I was too arrogant and disrespectful. The audacity of that punk. Cops were testifying and getting caught in lies after lies. They told 10 different stories on how they came across me or found out about me. They didn't have to explain why they didn't have a warrant to the jury because a judge already ruled that they didn't need one. They say they got a call for loud music. They say they got a call for the strong odor of marijuana. They said they were made aware of who I was months prior by DC police and the FBI. They say they never heard of me. They say they heard of me. They say I assaulted them. They say I threatened them. They said I reached for a gun. They say I grabbed their gun. They said we fought all through the apartment and landed in the kitchen. They said I was strong and relentless. I was determined to grab the pistol. It took 6 cops to hold me down. And all of this happened while I was handcuffed. It was a spectacle. The courtroom was filled with DEA, FBI, ATF, and Homeland Security agents. The prosecutor on the gun charge I had in DC that was dismissed was also present to monitor the outcome, along with the prosecutors on my brother's RICO case. DEA were there for the quantity of drugs and the seizure of the cash. ATF were there for the high-powered weapons and body armor. FBI were there because of First and Kennedy, Benny Lee Lawson, my brother, Jamaican posses, international connections in my escaping the RICO Act, murder charges and gun charges. Homeland Security was there because of what they called suspected terrorist activities. I was classified as sympathetic to terrorist activity and a admirer of Al-Qaeda. They had resort to trying any and everything. They found pictures of Osama bin Laden and the so-called 19 hijackers from 9/11 in their apartment. The pictures were in a magazine sitting in the closet. Those were publicly available pictures, and they were in every magazine and newspapers across the country. It was 5 years after the Pentagon was hit by a missile and 15 miles away from the courtroom, yet they were inflaming the jurors with unsubstantiated claims of sympathizing with terrorists. The U.S. Marshals told me after I cussed out the judge that I fucked up big time. Well, I looked back at them while the prosecutor was showing pictures of bin Laden to the jury and told them he just fucked up big time. This was more grounds for an appeal if I was found guilty. They were making my appeal stronger and stronger. You cannot inflame a jury with allegations and not one single piece of proof. They were out of control, but I took it as another chapter in my book of life. I also later found out that the jury forewoman, the Asian lady, her husband was a DC cop who got knocked out cold in a nightclub a few years earlier. I was arrested for that, but the case was immediately dismissed. He was pissy drunk and disrespectful and got the piss whooped out of him with a pistol whipping. She was looking at me with intense hatred in her eyes. I could feel it. I laughed. Another grounds for an appeal. One cop told the judge that while he was on the stand testifying, I threw up gang signs towards him and he felt his life was threatened. He then requested round-the-clock security for his home, which the judge granted. Now, it's at least 30 people in the courtroom, including 2 lawyers sitting on both sides of me, 2 prosecutors sitting across from me, a court clerk, a stenographer, at least 5 U.S. Marshals, 12 jurors, and more. Yet, no one saw this except him. I'm from D.C. We don't throw up gang signs, dummy. Another grounds for appeal. I now had at least 5 strong issues. I laid back in the chair and relaxed. Even the judge looked disturbed. She knew the case was doomed, and in actuality she should have dismissed it, but she couldn't. High-level government officials wanted me out of society, so she had to bow down.